So you joined the band in 2019, and then in 2020, there's this global pandemic. Did it feel like a cruel joke from the rock and roll gods? At first, it giveth this opportunity, and then it taketh away just as quickly.
Well, I don't think so because we never really thought about it like that, until we were into it. And then we were, it was like we had just done like a 3 months tour to the end of 2019. So I knew there wasn't going to be a whole lot going on for a while. And then I was out with Colin for, I think it was supposed to be a good month. And then we just got sent home. And, at the time, you didn't really realize until, a couple months later, it's like, okay, this is going to be a while, and then, we did, they were good about getting creative, and we did some drive-in gigs and the live stream stuff, which was terrible. I hate doing like full band sort of live stream stuff, even though I said I'd like to do the whole band with the Caddell show thing, but it's just so, that would be with an audience, and like just live streaming with no audience was just so bizarre that, there's no real way to give a good performance that way. So, and the sound is never the way it should be. But yeah, I guess I never really thought about it really that way. And then, and the next thing you know, it's 2 years later.
Yeah, yeah, you guys have found a way to stay busy. Do you find that on the recent tours that crowds are basically back to what they were before, or do you find that maybe people still have a certain amount of fear and they're not going out, so the crowds aren't quite as big, or are the crowds bigger than ever because everyone's been cooped up for 2-3 years and they just want to get out there and be social?
Um, yeah, like, well, I guess like last year, it felt like too many people were trying to kind of cash in on everybody coming back, and I think there was just too many festivals and too many things going on. I heard Rabs talking about this with you as well, and it was just like, you see these new festivals kind of come along, and there's the exact same festivals just down the street like a couple weeks later, and I think people got kind of exhausted too much, and plus all of the rescheduled stuff is going on too. It was just like just too much going on, I think, last year. I think this year hopefully it just settles down to where it was, but I think for the most part everybody's back to normal. This is, as good as it gets. So
Yeah,
hopefully that's not like too much of a overload of stuff to do anymore, I guess.
yeah, all these musicians and bands were telling me how difficult it was to tour at certain points over the last few years, because you had a period where nobody could play live, which is the main income stream for musicians.
Oh
So
yeah.
suddenly every musician and band in the world was on tour at the same time when things opened up again. So
Yeah.
it's like all the venues were booked. You couldn't book the shows you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
All the rental equipment was rented out. You couldn't find the equipment you wanted. The rental vans are gone, or they're charging $10,000 for this, and all the flights are delayed. Like, apparently it
Yeah.
was just a nightmare for a while to tour, is what I
Oh
was
yeah.
hearing.
Yeah. And costs of hotels were crazy, and
Gas
you know
prices.
gas prices are nuts, and you know buses were hard to find too. And yeah, I'm lucky that I don't have to deal with that side of things.
That's
Tell
why
me when I'm leaving and tell me when I'm coming home.
that's why you have a tour manager and a stage
Yeah.
manager and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
on that note, I have some kind words sent in from someone
Mm.
here who so Bruce Nickel, who I know as the
Ah,
bass player in Idle Sons back in the day, and he's gone on to be an amazing he
okay.
does, he tour manages and stage manages and guitar tech and bass tech and all those things. So I
Yeah.
believe with you guys, he came back as a guitar tech during the pandemic for a bit with
Yeah.
you and with Ian. So I'm actually going to see him tomorrow night. He's in Ottawa, Theory of a
Ah,
Dead Man. So I'll
nice.
be hanging
Tell
out
him
with
I say
him.
hello and bring him an Arby's burger.
He loves that.
Arby's
I'll
sandwich
sneak one
area.
in my jacket. What's funny is the other day, not far from here, I drove by an Arby's. I'm like, I didn't know Arby's even still existed. So I know where there is one. So
Yeah, he got me to try it. I'd never tried it, and I'm like, who? My joke has always been like, I don't know anybody who likes Arby's. Like, how do they stay in business?
it's
I've
like
never
roast
heard
beef with
anybody.
liquid cheese. Like it's
Yeah, like I've
strange.
never heard anybody in my life be like, you know what I could go for right now? Arby's. Never. And then Bruce is just like, I love Arby's, man. Like, what?
Yeah, I think the podcast Arby's sponsorship is not going to come through anytime soon after this
But it was
episode.
good. We went there. It was good.
Yeah, so this is what Bruce has to say. He says Chris is more than a great guitar player. He's a fantastic one. More than a great musician. His jazz piano is unequaled. He is he is a fantastic human. Period. He's easily one of the funniest people I've ever worked with. A great person to have on the road and a great person to have around for any occasion. Top notch all the way. So that's from Bruce Nick.
Right back at you, Bruce. God bless him. He's the best.
Did the period of lockdowns over the last 2 years, did that make you really appreciate all the shows you've been doing since then? You know, maybe it's like we take it for granted. Oh, we're always on the road and I'm tired of all these shows. And then suddenly there was a period in time where musicians didn't know if they would ever play live again. Like
Yeah.
there was this uncertainty for a while. Like
Uh-huh.
I went and saw Billy Talent live, and the singer Ben basically was crying at one point saying, I thought at some point maybe I would never see any of your faces again on a live
Right.
stage. So did that make you appreciate when you do play live now that like, wow, we almost lost this, or we did for a bit?
I don't really think that I ever thought that it'd never happen again, but it definitely, when we first started playing in front of like real audiences, it was like, oh yeah, I really miss this. It's the way to go. You know, it beats the hell out of live streams. I just hate them so much. Just for that, like, you know, like when we did our little show, it was like, you know, we wanted to make it interesting and do some fun stuff, and you know, we had a drinking game going on and stuff like that. It was just like, you know, just a good hang. But when you're trying to put on a performance, you know, to nobody, it's really bizarre. It's really, really weird. You know, you finish a song and you get nothing back. Like, not just like a couple of claps or a dead audience. You get nothing back. It's so weird. So, you know, once, you know, we got back into a, you know, full crowd going crazy, it was, you know, I'm definitely emotional. I don't think I cried or anything. I'm not like, just not really much of a crier, but
yeah. Well, even at the drive-in shows, you could get a honk or two here or there, you know.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because like the first drive-in ones, everybody had to stay in their cars, and that was kind of cool. It was like everybody's flashing their lights and honking horns, and you know, it was like, this is kind of awesome. And then the later on ones, you were supposed to stay in your car, but you know, rules had kind of loosened a bit, so everybody kind of stood in front of their hoods, sort of thing. And then it was weird because it just sounded like a dead audience. Like there was no more honking and flashing lights. It was just like, you know, it looked just like a poorly attended concert. So that was kind of weird. But the first ones, it was kind of cool. I was like, dare I say I like this? You know, yeah, it was cool.